Hello again, everyone. I realized it'd been a little while since I'd done a watercolor favorites video, pretty much half a year, because the last time I did it was at the beginning of the year. So I decided to go ahead and look through my watercolors and pick the ones that I have really been liking. And so I went ahead and already wrote out the ones that I'm going to show you today, and they almost all are in different palettes. So you're going to see me going between a bunch of different palettes, which, you know, you'll get to see some of my setups as well. And then I do have a couple of things that are watercolor related that I want to talk about as well that are favorites. So I'm just going to go down the list. First, I'm going to tell you what they are, and then I'm going to dig them up one by one. So this is Case for Making Topaz, which you'll see. This is Zirconium Cerulean. I have several different brands, but the one I'm going to show you is by A. Gallo. And Ruby Mountain Ultramarine Blue. American Journey Ward Jeans Dusty Green, which I keep going to that color for leaves and all kinds of fun stuff. This is Michael Harding Cerulean Blue. Old Holland Manganese Blue Extra. And these are actually fairly similar, but they're so juicy that I really wanted to show you both. And then Schminke Random Gray, which I'm not even sure if Random Gray is available anymore, but if you can find it, because it was a limited edition, it's basically whatever pigments they had laying around and they put them all in one color and made it gray. But I love it. It's great. And then the last one is Daniel Smith Permanent Violet. So I guess that's really, no, I mean, I would consider Michael Harding sort of a mainstream brand, even though they're new. So I'm going to go in order. I believe that I have Case for Making Topaz in here. And this was a rainbow palette that Case for Making made for Pride Month. And the colors are really pretty. So this one here is Topaz. And I'm going to layer that up a little bit. And then I'm going to show you, I'm going to really put a lot of water here and then dab it in the water, because I think some of these really benefit from seeing how they color separate. So we'll see what that does. And this is the part I didn't plan. Like when things are still wet, where do I put them? So you may see me juggling a little bit. Most of these are going to end up on the floor for the time being. Okay, and the Zirconium Cerulean is actually at the bottom here. And this is one of the other things that I wanted to show you, was this bamboo box that I got. I purchased this from Etsy, and it is a little watercolor box that's where the top slides off. And I have all of my A. Gallo watercolors in here, and look at the fit. Like, these fit exactly. I did try some other brands, and some of them weren't as satisfying of a fit, because, you know, there's different size of half pans, even though they're supposed to all be the same. But I really, really like this box, and it just slides on and off. And this, although I don't know if it's because of dampness or what, sometimes you have to kind of align it correctly to get it closed. But once it's closed, it has a really tight fit. So let me go ahead and get to the Zirconium Cerulean Blue, which is, looks like it's this one, if I'm looking at my thing correctly. And this one might need a little bit of wetting and coaxing to get out of here, because it is not the strongest as far as tinting strength goes, but I absolutely love it. It has such a great granulation and a really great texture. And again, I'm going to put a little puddle of water here and drop that in. And I probably could get a little bit more concentrated than that, but this will work for now. And I really like the color. and the granulation, and mixing it with a bunch of other things leads to really fun results. All right, so the next one is Ruby Mountain Ultramarine Blue, and that is in this sky. So this is a vintage tin. I've actually started collecting various vintage tins. They tend to be kind of expensive, so I look out for deals. This one I think I got for like $10. Maybe vintage tins are a thing now where they weren't before. But this one, I kind of have a variety of things in here. So I have some different brands of handmade watercolor in shells. This is the one I'm going to be showing you. This is Ruby Mountain Ultramarine Blue, and then these came in little flat pans. I was going to put these in my Artist Toolkit folio palettes, but they're so full that they didn't fit, so I had to find another place for them. And then these beauties, so these are little ceramic half pan size little, I don't know what you call them, vessels. I don't know. These come from Masha's Watercolor on Etsy, and they're really, really nice. And they do tend to fit perfectly in here. I did put a little bit of magnet tape on the bottom so that I could at least get some protection from them moving around too much. But yeah, so this is just kind of a fun experimental palette, basically. And oh, I did want to say, one of the things that I have actually really been liking with watercolor is this ochre pastel. So that's actually a pastel, not a color name necessarily. So one of my pastels totally broke in shipping, so I decided to add some water and see if I could rehydrate it in a little pan. But it has such a, I mean, this is really intense because I haven't watered it down, but if you, I mean, you can get so many different textures with it, and it's actually really fun to mix with watercolors. So let me see if what should I mix with? Let's try this Masha's Ultramarine Purple, which is kind of an intense color, but yeah, I just really love how it mixes with things and adds a whole different texture. And I think, yeah, I had a little test sheet in here. Oh, this one. So this was the ochre pastel mixed with different things, and it led to some really nice muted results. So that's kind of a tip to keep in my pocket for later. A broken pastel led to that. But anyway, the reason why we have this one open is to show you this Ruby Mountain Ultramarine Blue. And it's so pigmented and it just wets super, super well. It's really, really lovely. I love the amount of granulation it has. Normally my favorite major brand ultramarine is Daniel Smith. They're French ultramarine because it has a lot of granulation. But I think this might be displacing it as my ultramarine of choice. Okay. And as you can see, I got a ton in the pan. And I'm noticing that my favorites are very blue heavy this time. I guess I'm feeling the blues. Okay, and that's my rubber band that goes around that. And then the next color we're doing, so the next three are actually in this palette, which I have swatched on the channel before. I'll put a link to that video below. So we have, okay, so this one I think is American Journey, Ward Jeans, Dusty Green. It's just such a beautiful green. And I know it's a mix and it's a convenience color, but it's really, really nice. And so I'm gonna do the same that I've been doing for all of them. Put some water off here to the side. And you can see it's kind of pushy. It's kind of a pushy color. Let's see what we can get out of that. But it has some really lovely granulation. And I'll turn these to the side and closer to the camera once I get closer to being done here, so you can see them a little bit better. All right, so the Michael Harding Cerulean Blue, so they're actually right next to each other. This is the Michael Harding Cerulean Blue. This is the Old Holland Manganese Blue Extra. And like I said, they are very similar, but they kind of have their own deal. Okay, I probably just added way too much water to that, but that's okay. Let's definitely liking the cerulean type colors, clearly. And this one is just really beautiful. You can see it's slightly greener than the cerulean blue. Oh, looks like I got some water splattered. I kind of like the way that looks. I'm going to leave it. Okay, let's do a little water puddle here. I really like purple and the ochre color there. I have to remember which color I was going for. And a lot of these are granulation heavy too, I've noticed. Okay, so that's the rest of the ones that are in this palette. Now I have two separate palettes. Trying to put those somewhere where they won't fall over. So the random gray I have in this little mixing palette that is mostly Isero watercolors, but I do have the random gray up here. So let's go ahead and, man, these really shrank down. I mean, I've used them, but not as much as you would think, given how far down the colors are. And I think what I like about this color is it really is complex, probably because you've got like every color in the world in there, but but it is really, really cool. And it has granulation, of course. I'm still on the granulation kick. Put that down too. And then the last watercolor that I'm going to talk about is Daniel Smith Permanent Violet. And this is one that just got kind of lost in my collection of watercolors, and I rediscovered it and I was like, wow, that is a really nice color. I don't know why I'm not using it more. So let's go ahead and get in here. I mean, it's a really deep, vibrant purple, which I really, really like. I don't think this one's granulating. I think it's probably the only one in the list here. All right, so there we go. Definitely leaning bluish. All right, well, here they are kind of tilted around, and you can see this particular green, it just has so many different cool colors that come out when you use a lot of water. Even if you apply it this way, it looks really cool. It almost looks like you've layered up various colors. There's that Cerulean Blue by Michael Harding, Ruby Mountain Ultramarine Blue, Zirconium Cerulean, Topaz by Case for Making, and there's the Manganese Blue Extra, Random Gray, which also you can really see how it nicely separates in there. And then this is the Permanent Violet. All right, so the next thing, that's it for watercolors. And what I try to focus on when picking these watercolors is watercolors that I'm like, ooh, I really like that color and I really want to try and use it in a lot of things. So that's how I picked these, because I use all kinds of watercolors all the time. Oh, and I also, just as sort of an aside, I recently just started dabbling in my own paint making. And so this is actually a color that I made myself. And the primary pigments in here are ultramarine blue and potter's pink. And I'm not sure, you know, as far as the level of mulling that I did, I'm not sure I did a good amount of mulling, but the granulation is definitely the way I wanted it to be in here. And it seems to flow just fine. I did use a commercial pre-mixed binder. So it's not something that I came up with a ratio. I actually used a set binder for this, but I'm actually pretty happy with it. And I feel like the longer it sat in the pan, the better it got. Maybe it just kind of melded together, but you can definitely see the separation of Potter's Pink. But the ultramarine blue just kind of turned it purple. I'm actually calling this ultramarine or ultra gray. Ultramarine gray? I don't know. Let's call it ultra gray. So this is going to be my Handmade, and it's all right. So that was kind of a fun experiment. And you know, it actually was a lot easier than I thought it would be. I actually saw a little tutorial the other day on Jerry's Artorama about making paint, and they made it seem very complicated. And this was after I'd already tried this. But I think, you know, if you just go with a pre-made mix and try and, because I just kind of wanted to see what different colors would make when I mixed them up. And it was pretty fun. Where's my other one? Oh, so the other one is actually in one of these palettes I have out. So this is the other one, and this one I'm calling Dark Coral. And the main colors in here are quinacridone red and I think burnt sienna. But I will show you that as well. And I was pretty happy with this one as well. I did add a little bit of white, I think. I wrote it down somewhere. All right, and I'll show you that one here in a minute. But then the next thing that I want to show you is actually not watercolor, but I've been using them a lot with watercolor. I still love that little splash there. Let me put this off to the side. So what I have is in this bag here. Because I put all my Gallo watercolors in that little bamboo box, and this bag is covered in dog fur, so I apologize about that. This bag was around the case that I was putting them in, and so I've just started using them for these, which are the relatively new marker from Faber Castell. And these are called the Pit Artist Pen Dual Marker. So there is a fine liner on one end, fine, 0.8 millimeters, and then there's a large brush on the other side. And I did actually do a swatching of some of these in an unboxing, but I'm going to go ahead and swatch all of them for you again, because there are some new ones in here. I think this is one of the ones I did before. I'm actually going to have to go up here because I don't want to make sure I have enough room. But they are really, really great, and they work really well with watercolor. Because they're India ink, they will dry. So I'm actually going to go over that. Well, I'll just go over it with water since I put all the colors away. This is Coral. And I know these are really small samples, but I'm going to put it up to the camera, and I want to make sure I have room for all of them. This is a newer one that I got. This is Cinnamon. And I have discovered that one downside, this one's a lovely color, this Cinnamon. You can see it has a lot of nuance, and it's just a really beautiful color. I really like this one a lot. But you can see that there's definitely some difference between the fine liner side and the brush side. Sometimes they're lighter, sometimes they're darker. But one thing I have noticed is these caps are very easy to just kind of fall off. So I have to make sure that I hear that snap. Because the last batch that I got, actually, a couple of the caps were off when I got them. And that's not good. But I put the cap on, and I mean, because it was both on the the fine liner side and I put the cap on for a little while, and then it seems like it refreshed itself pretty good. So this is beige red, and this one is much lighter in, well, maybe not much lighter, but it seems lighter on that side. Let's see. So let me just do the straight up black. So other than the cinnamon color, these are all colors that I've swatched before. This one I've also swatched before, but after this, they're all new colors. And this is a really great green, this chrome green. This is chromium green opaque. So the next four are new colors, excuse me. This is green gold. Probably been talking too much today. It's because I have that vocal cord dysfunction. I think I've mentioned that on the channel before. It's like, really? We thought it was asthma, and apparently it's vocal cord dysfunction. And apparently people who get panic attacks, like I do, tend to have that. It's more common in people who have that sort of thing. This is raw umber, because basically it's your vocal cords will not open. And so it feels like you're not getting enough breath in, and it gets worse the more you talk. So that's part of the reason why I've reduced the number of videos on my channel, because I don't want to wear my voice out. Okay, so this is light cobalt turquoise. This actually might have been one that I got previously, but I can't remember. And then finally, this is middle purple pink. And the last time I swatched these, I was like, I gotta go back and get and get a an indigo, because in the smaller Pitt pens, the brush pens, I use indigo all the time, and they don't have an indigo. I was like, are you kidding me? You don't have an indigo? But these colors are so great. They're not really like, you know, primary in your face colors. They're really, really beautiful. So I highly recommend these. And like I was saying, they work really great with watercolor. So, oh wow, look at that separation from this permanent violet. Look how nice that is. Let's see, what do I want to do? Oh, and you can really see the green and the blue and that topaz. And you can see the granulation really well. That, of course, is a winner, that green one. And this one, the granulation came out really, really well. But yeah, and then these are my handmade ones. This is my ultra gray, as I'm calling it. Oh, and this I was calling dark coral. Okay, so love these brush pens. I'm actually gonna put Faber Castell, what are these called? Pitt dual marker. And then this is dry pastel. Plus the Masha's purple color. I can't remember the name of it, so I don't want to spend time going back and forth, but these are pretty much my favorites. Oh, and I keep forgetting that I want to go back. Let me actually get one of the colors here, and then we'll wrap up. So let's go ahead and go over one of these with the purple again. Let's do this one. So you see it goes right over, it doesn't melt it, which is really nice. And that was just water. So they're permanent when dry. You do have a little bit of playing around time if you want to try and spread them around, but once they're dry, they're permanent. And I mean, they just work together really, really well. And I definitely think these are going to be a new mixed media thing that I use quite a bit. I've already been using them a bit in my sketchbooks. Okay, well, that's all I had for you today. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. I hope to see you next time, but in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.